Disclaimer, this isn't completely unplanned.
Could have just gone ahead and said the F word and then we'd all be in real trouble.
You're a robot.
And I don't want to wish away time at all.
I literally just learned about everything that's happening 2 minutes ago.
I don't know how, I feel like, no.
We talked on phones on the walls.
I feel like I'm constantly on maternity leave. I can't be focusing on a promotion.
Which is in the best of relationships, it's a give and take.
Sometimes it's good to hear that you're normal.
You're normal.
You're not that cheesy.
Oh my God, that's not cheesy, that's something else.
Raising children, marriage, and career.
If I can just get to that horizon, dang it, there's another horizon.
I do love a good high five.
I love the fact that we're Gen Xers.
There was a lot more, I think, trial by error when we were kids.
That's a great dad joke.
I never gave the thumbs up. They were the ones who gave me a thumbs up.
Sitting on a cactus.
I think you all get the point.
Technology has brought this world to a faster pace.
Played us against each other in a very real way.
Of stuff falling from the sky.
It was beyond PJ time.
It was skeet ball.
Yeah, we actually had a competition, a hand clapping competition.
That's a thing. We took an L on that.
We took a loss on that one for sure.
I'm a half expert on myself, and that's really where it stops. We'll have a lot more to talk about.
And so will you.
We'll cut that.